Tonight on NewsWatch, Christian churches open their doors to Muslims for worship. Is it a way to reach out or a dangerous compromise?
Plus, pro-life generation, why young Americans are taking up the fight against abortion.
And how songs of praise turned an Australian church into an international phenomenon. All this and more tonight on NewsWatch. American churches opening their doors for Muslim services. Good evening, I'm Lee Webb.
And I'm Wendy Griffith. The churches hope the gesture will help reach out to their Muslim neighbors. At least 2 congregations have already allowed local Muslims to use their church for worship services. But many Christians say this goes too far. Heather Sells has more in tonight's top story.
Muslims made major headlines last year when they tried to build a mosque near Ground Zero and a mega mosque in the heart of the Bible Belt in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. But even beyond those headlines is a new question. What happens when Muslims building a mosque ask to share worship space with a local Christian congregation? That's what happened recently in Alexandria, Virginia, when an Islamic center meeting in this storefront decided to build its own mosque. In the meantime, it asked Aldersgate Methodist if it could use its building for Friday prayers.
I feel like we are embodying Christianity by being welcoming.
Diane Bechtel, a member of the church's newly founded Muslim Dialogue Committee, says the church was surprised when the request came in, but now wants to get to better know its Muslim neighbors.
It's very easy to categorize a group, to demonize a group, to suspect or just not know or understand a group.
Does not think sharing worship space compromises her faith.
Jesus called upon us to give hospitality to strangers, to feed the poor, to help the sick, and this is walking the walk.
But Tennessee, outside of Memphis, Hearts on Church received a similar request. Pastor Steve Stone says loaning out their worship space to Muslim neighbors is a great way to share the gospel.
Our Muslim brothers and sisters know that we're Jesus followers. They know we're not trading, hey, you take the Trinity, we'll take an infernal jihad. You know, we're clearly Jesus followers. They know that.
But not everyone agrees that this is a biblical means of outreach. As a recent Christianity Today commentary notes, it is not self-evident that this duty to love your neighbor requires us to provide property for false worship. It also points out that good works should not lead other believers to stumble. Christians across the country may be forced to engage in such questions sooner rather than later as more and more Muslim communities continue to expand. Heather Sells, CBN News.
Dr. Carlos Campo is president of Regent University, and he says Christians must walk a fine line when considering to share their worship space with other religions.
I have concerns about long-term use of these spaces, and to be clear in what that sharing is going to be, I think is an important point as well. Each congregation has to go to the Lord in prayer about this and be guided by the Holy Spirit in it, and if they truly feel this is something God is calling them to short-term, then that's something they may want to consider. To be clear here, when the Lord talked to the woman at the well, you know, he was clear in loving her. He transformed her life. But he also said, you know not what you worship. We don't want to be so welcoming that we lose the gospel message. Christians need to put the Lord first in terms of the way they're approaching Muslims. I like the fact that the conversations are going on, but let's not compromise the gospel because the Lord will be true.
And to hear more from Dr. Carlos Campo, we have placed the entire interview on our website, cbnnews.com.
Dr. Richard Land is the longtime president of the Southern Baptist Convention's Ethics and Religious Liberty Commission. He recently withdrew from an interfaith coalition. It was set up to monitor mosque discrimination in the U.S. Land tells CBN News many Southern Baptists felt the coalition crossed the line from defending religious freedom to promoting Islam.
Evidently, Southern Baptists feel that it's a bridge too far for us to be filing suit on behalf of Muslims that, as they put to me, you don't have to do that. They can do that themselves. I'm a denominational servant. And as that, I have a twofold role. One's prophetic and the other's representative. and that balance can get tricky. I will still, in my prophetic role, call for Southern Baptists and all Americans to defend and to advocate for complete religious freedom.
Land says although he is withdrawing from the coalition, he is not stepping aside from his commitment to religious liberty for all Americans.
President Obama's State of the Union speech tonight could be the beginning of a showdown with congressional Republicans. He faces a new Congress full of conservatives who are determined to cut trillions out of the federal budget. White House correspondent Jennifer Wishon has a preview of tonight's speech.
No matter who's in the White House, the State of the Union address has the feel of a pep rally. Some members stand in wild applause, while others just look bored.
The attention is not focused on the president's words, but who's standing up, who's sitting down, who's sitting there with their arms across their chest.
To change that, Murkowski and at least 55 other members will cross the aisle to sit with colleagues from the opposite party.
I think that the aisle that divides us has become as high as a mountain, and it's time to climb that mountain.
While members change the tone, the president will focus on the economy, including a call for a 5-year freeze on non-defense-related discretionary spending.
My number one focus is going to be making sure that we are competitive, that we are growing, and we are creating jobs, not just now, but well into the future.
Republicans will be listening to the president's words carefully.
I'm hopeful that the word investment really isn't more stimulus spending and a bigger government here in Washington.
White House domestic policy advisor Melody Barnes tells CBN News America has made the mistake of not investing in education and innovation.
We're talking about smart spending that's also combined with cuts in areas that aren't working or that we simply can't afford them. At the same time, we know that we've got to get our deficit spending under control, and the president who announced the fiscal commission, who put that in place, is going to talk about how serious he is about those issues as well.
So we need to see Republicans and Democrats sit together, find where they can work together without either side compromising on core principles.
Tonight's GOP response will be delivered by House Budget Chairman Paul Ryan. Congresswoman Michelle Bachmann will deliver a message from the Tea Party caucus. Jennifer Wishon, CBN News, the White House.
Quinn Hilliard joins us now for more on the president's speech tonight. He's with the Washington Times. Quinn, what do you think about this gesture of bipartisanship with some lawmakers actually choosing to sit with a member of the opposite party? I haven't heard about that before.
I actually think it's not a bad idea, but the key thing is not where they sit, but how they act. The problem is that too many of them use it as if it is a speech where they're trying to make political points. Really, they shouldn't stand up and applaud 45 or 50 times. They should only applaud about 6 or 7 times when the president is particularly eloquent or says things that unite people. If they're just making political points, then that actually detracts from what the original purpose of the speech is supposed to be.
Yeah, well, don't hold your breath. Well, what can we expect from the president's speech tonight?
Well, you can expect a lot of lip service to saving money without a lot of specifics, and then some specifics on how to spend more money, which he will again call investment. And of course, his word for investment is anything that he wants to spend money on. So I think the problem is going to be to try to separate his generalities from his specifics.
Now, when Americans tune in tonight to watch, what will they be looking for? What message does the president need to get across?
What he needs to get across, what the people want to hear, is how this unbelievable debt that has been exacerbated by the Obama administration to a degree heretofore unimaginable, is going to be reined in. They want specifics on how he is going to save money and make government less intrusive into our daily lives.
Now, what do you think we'll be hearing tonight from the Republican response from Congresswoman Michelle Bachmann and Representative Paul Ryan?
Well, Representative Ryan is definitely a budget expert, and I think you will hear specifics from him, and you will hear a vision about how government can move forward in a way that's reformed and responsible. Michelle Bachmann, I'm not really sure, because there's never really been a third speech in one night, but she should probably hit some of the same themes without quite as much specificity. Well,
it should be interesting. Quinn Hillier, thanks as always for your insights.
Thank you, Wendy. Appreciate it.
Some European airports are increasing security after the deadly bombing in Moscow. A security camera caught the moment the explosion went off. The blast killing 35 people and injuring more than 100 others. A suicide bomber detonated the explosive in the arrivals area of that airport. No groups have claimed responsibility for the terrorist attack yet.
The first Guantanamo Bay detainee to stand trial in an American civilian court will spend the rest of his life in prison. Today, a federal judge sentenced Ahmed Gilani for the 1998 attacks on 2 U.S. embassies in Africa. The al-Qaeda bombings killed 224 people.
Coming up, Generation Life. Why America's young people are taking up the pro-life cause in record numbers.
If you're an individual group or business needing a dental plan, Avia Dental offers group plans for as little as $5 per month. Now members of your group can save up to 50% or more off a high-quality dental care. Everyone qualifies, and there's no waiting or limits on visits to the dentist. Visit aviadental.com or call 1-888-431-CARE. Avia Dental since 1994. Smile, you're with people who care.
Attention investors, now is the time to protect your retirement accounts and investments. Excessive government spending is devaluing the U.S. dollar, and high rates of inflation are coming. Gold has tripled since 2001, and some experts predict the prices will climb another 100%. Buy gold now, direct and wholesale with United Gold Group. The demand for gold around the world is higher than ever. Foreign countries like China and India are buying up gold at record rates. Why? What do they know that you don't?
Call now and get your Gold Investors Kit absolutely free. Call in the next 5 minutes and receive The Secret to Owning Gold in Your Retirement Account, also absolutely free. Just call 1-800-758-5070. That's 1-800-758-5070.
This could be the most important call you make this year. United Gold Group, investing in America's future.
If you're an individual group or business needing a dental plan, Avia Dental offers group plans for as little as $5 per month. Now members of your group can save up to 50% or more off a high-quality dental care. Everyone qualifies, and there's no waiting or limits on visits to the dentist. Visit aviadental.com or call 1-888-431-CARE. Avia Dental since 1994. Smile, you're with people who care.
A Virginia school district has reposted the 10 Commandments in every school in the county. The commandments were up on the walls in Giles County, Virginia for at least a decade next to framed copies of the Constitution. But one resident complained, claiming the display violated the Constitution, so school officials took them down. Then several parents and pastors, supported by numerous county citizens, told the board it had a moral obligation to reinforce God's teachings. So the 5-member school board voted unanimously to put the commandments back up. The school superintendent says they'll wait to see if there are lawsuits filed.
At least 2 states are taking steps to place tighter restrictions on abortion clinics. In Kansas, doctors who perform late-term abortions will have to do a better job explaining why. They must state clearly the medical reasons why an abortion after 21 weeks was necessary to save the mother's life or prevent permanent harm. In Texas, Governor Rick Perry has fast-tracked legislation requiring women to have an ultrasound before seeking an abortion. Thousands of pro-life activists gathered in Washington Monday for the annual March for Life.
And most of them were young people, and many of them are moving into leadership roles in the pro-life movement. Paul Strand has that story from Washington.
Many of those who were young protesters against Roe v. Wade when abortion was legalized have become gray hairs after 38 years of opposition. Now younger generations are moving in to take over the fight. John Paul Deddens and Kristen Hawkins of Students for Life see this on a daily basis.
We are the survivor generation. We almost were aborted ourselves. So I think that resonates a lot with young people.
Doctors recommended Deddens be aborted because they mistakenly believed he had Down syndrome.
We kind of have this bond and this knowledge that we are survivors, that we came through this great American Holocaust.
Earlier in the day, Brandy Swindell was protesting outside the nation's biggest abortion provider, Planned Parenthood. She heads up a group totally dedicated to getting the young involved, Generation Life.
The majority, I think it's something like 72%, believe abortion is morally wrong. They know what it's like to be open prey in their mother's womb. They could have been aborted.
Author Pam Stenzel counsels young audiences about sex and abstinence, and she tells them about a 15-year-old rape victim.
This particular girl chose to give her child life and then to place that child with an adoptive family, and that child was me. My biological father was a rapist. I don't even know my ethnicity, but I'm still a human being and I still have value. And I tell people I didn't deserve the death penalty because of the crime of my biological father.
While any young person should be aware an abortion kills another young life, they should know it may also risk their personal health. Dr. Angela Lanfranchi says among other risks, there are links between breast cancer and abortion. And since Roe v. Wade,
an additional 300,000 breast cancer cases that may not have been if people had not chosen abortion.
This year, young people here in Washington weren't just concentrating on the dangers and tragedy of abortion to Americans. Some headed to the Chinese embassy to stand against China's one-child policy, which has forced millions of women to get abortions, many couples to get sterilized.
This generation is connecting the dots that human rights begin in the womb, and that the human rights violations that we see in China are directly connected to abortion on demand.
The fight against abortion has given the younger generations a real cause in which they can live out that saying, think globally, act locally. Paul Strand, CBN News, reporting from the Supreme Court, the endpoint of the March for Life.
Up next, the worship music heard around the world, how Hillsong became an international phenomenon.
Attention investors, now is the time to protect your retirement accounts and investments. Excessive government spending is devaluing the U.S. dollar and high rates of inflation are coming. Gold has tripled since 2001 and some experts predict the prices will climb another 100%. Buy gold now, direct and wholesale with United Gold Group. The demand for gold around the world is higher than ever. Foreign countries like China and India are buying up gold at record rates. Why? What do they know that you don't?
Call now and get your Gold Investors Kit absolutely free. Call in the next 5 minutes and receive the secret to owning gold in your retirement account, also absolutely free. Just call 1-800-758-5070. That's 1-800-758-5070.
This could be the most important call you make this year. United Gold Group, investing in America's future.
If you have diabetes and you're on Medicare, call now for a new pain-free meter. These new meters are more accurate, they're easier to use, and the best news is you don't have to prick your fingers anymore. Call now and Arriva Medical will send you one of these new meters for free. And if you have Medicare, your testing supplies may also be covered. Arriva makes it simple. They bill Medicare directly. There are no upfront costs. And they deliver your supplies right to your door for free. With these new meters, there's no coding, you don't have to prick your fingers, and some of these meters even talk.
Your blood glucose reading is 122.
And if you call 1-800-284-9762, we will send you a free Betty Crocker Diabetes Cookbook filled with delicious recipes.
Call Arriva today. You'd be glad you did.
Flooding that began in November continues to swamp Australia, leaving a path of death and destruction. The muddy waters have claimed 35 lives. The flooding has destroyed more than 35,000 homes and businesses and caused at least $3 billion in damages to crops and natural resources. The Australian government says this is one of the costliest disasters in its history. Things are not going to get better soon. The water is not expected to peak before next week. Well, Australia's Hillsong Church is known worldwide for its worship music. They've been turning out songs of praise since 1992.
But the church's pastor, Brian Houston, says they're just a local church having church. Gary Lane traveled to Sydney and has this look at its amazing growth and impact.
Contemporary Christian praise songs, Mighty to Save and Shout to the Lord, are known by Christians worldwide. Hillsong music is so popular, the songs are sung even in small churches in remote parts of the world. Hillsong has now released a total of 40 albums. Praise music that continues to influence people of all ages around the globe.
We were intentional about writing the kind of songs that affected our church and that glorified God. Honestly, it is a miracle. You couldn't make it happen. You couldn't market the kind of opportunity we've had every continent of the world with the praise and the worship, and even the mix of songwriters and gifted people that gather here. I mean, it's just a local church having church.
And it's the vision that God has given senior pastor Brian Houston that has helped propel Hillsong Church into an international phenomenon. Houston and his wife Bobby first started Hillsong Church in 1983. At that time it was called Hills Christian Life Center, with only 45 members. And within 4 years, the church grew to 900 people. Services were held in a warehouse in those early days. The church moved to its current location in 1997. And God has blessed Hillsong Church through the years, expanding its various ministries and transforming lives.
23,000 people attend services here at Hillsong on any given weekend. The church has 3 campuses in Sydney, 14 extension services, and churches around the world in Kiev, Moscow, New York, London, Cape Town, and Paris. Why is the church, after 27 years, so successful?
It sounds like a cliche, but it really is the grace of God. I mean, I think we have a church that is really intent on being relevant and reaching people, and I've always tried to be sure that we're preaching not just to people Sunday, but to their Monday, keeping it practical so it really relates to people's everyday lives.
And Hillsong is more than just music. The church has many other ministries in Australia and around the world. Among the Hillsong outreach, Hillsong Kids, Youth and Women's Ministries, and Hillsong City Care. Hillsong Church will celebrate its 25th conference year in 2011. 100 people attended the first one in 1986. More than 30,000 have attended since the inception. And young pastors, missionaries, and praise leaders are trained each year at the Hillsong Leadership College.
It really comes down to being a church that is effective and influential and reaches beyond itself. I read today that vision, and you can almost see the outworking of those things that then were just a dream. So our vision has never gone on great, turns to the left or to the right. We've just been consistent about doing what the Lord put in our hearts.
Hillsong has faced a number of controversies and challenges in recent years, including media criticism for its relationship with several Christian organizations and some conservative politicians. Pastor Houston admits the church has had to overcome some difficult times, but he's not discouraged. He's optimistic about the future. He sees the recent election of Australia's first openly atheist Prime Minister as a rare spiritual opportunity.
Australia's an interesting place. It's a very secular country. I think it's listed in the United Nations not as a Christian country, but a secular country. And I find there's really a paradox, because there's a very strong anti-Christ spirit in Australia. I think aggressive atheism is on the rise and a really anti-God spirit. And yet at the same time, my personal experience with people, every day I meet people who are spiritually hungry and so wanting to know more about God. There is a spiritual hunger, and if we can tap into that, I believe there's a great future for the church in Australia. To me, it's all about consistency in season and out of season, and it's amazing what God can do.
Gary Lane, CBN News, Sydney, Australia.
Up next, tacos on trial. A fast food chain that has lawyers asking, where's the beef?
Attention investors, now is the time to protect your retirement accounts and investments. Excessive government spending is devaluing the U.S. dollar and high rates of inflation are coming. Gold has tripled since 2001, and some experts predict the prices will climb another 100%. Buy gold now, direct and wholesale with United Gold Group. The demand for gold around the world is higher than ever. Foreign countries like China and India are buying up gold at record rates. Why? What do they know that you don't?
Call now and get your Gold Investors Kit absolutely free. Call in the next 5 minutes and receive the secret to owning gold in your retirement account, also absolutely free. Just call 1-800-758-5070. That's 1-800-758-5070.
This could be the most important call you make this year. United Gold Group, investing in America's future.
If you have diabetes and you're on Medicare, call now for a new pain-free meter. These new meters are more accurate, they're easier to use, and the best news is you don't have to prick your fingers anymore. Call now and Arriva Medical will send you one of these new meters for free. And if you have Medicare, your testing supplies may also be covered. Arriva makes it simple. They bill Medicare directly. There are no upfront costs. And they deliver your supplies right to your door for free. With these new meters, there's no coding, you don't have to prick your fingers, and some of these meters even talk.
Your blood glucose reading is 122.
And if you call 1-800-284-9762, we will send you a free Betty Crocker Diabetes Cookbook filled with delicious recipes.
Call Arriva today. You'd be glad you did.
Well, this might be some bad news for some Taco Bell lovers.
Yeah. An Alabama law firm has a beef with the way the fast food chain is advertising its beef. It turns out that what Taco Bell calls beef may not be all beef. The lawsuit claims the Mexican food company uses false advertising when it refers to its meat as seasoned ground beef. A study finds that the meat mixture actually contains binders and extenders and contains less than 35% beef. But beef or not, diehard taco fans say it will not keep them away.
If it were 20%, I would still be happy with Taco Bell.
We love it.
So it doesn't really make any difference what's in it, right?
No. Oh, it's delicious.
The filler's delicious?
It is.
You don't care about this lawsuit?
No.
Why?
Not at all. Because I love Taco Bell.
Wow. Do you work for Taco Bell?
No, it's just that good.
Okay, the lawsuit does not seek damages from the chain. Attorneys say they just hope the suit keeps fast food restaurants honest.
Wow, those were some Taco Bell fans. They don't care what's in it as long as it tastes good.
I'm glad to know that. I mean, I admit I enjoy their products, but I'm glad to know that.
Their bean burritos. I'll probably still go. Well, that's all for this edition of Newswatch.
Good night.
Good night.